History has officially been made. House approves federal marijuana decriminalization in historic vote. The legislation almost certainly won't pass the Senate, but it marks the latest sign that opposition to legalization around the country is diminishing. So the chamber approved the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. The acronym is MORE, the MORE Act, by a vote of 228 to 164. Passed pretty comfortably. It was largely along party lines. There were 5 Republicans who joined the Democrats in voting for this. And I believe there were 5 or 6 Democrats who joined the Republicans voting against it. The bill removes marijuana from the federal controlled substances list. And if it's passed into law, it would automatically make recreational marijuana legal nationwide. Now, individual states would have to still legalize it on their own, but this decriminalizes it, basically. It decriminalizes it, as opposed to legalization at the federal level, because it doesn't set up a regulatory framework to legally sell it at the federal level. It still leaves it up to the states to create their own frameworks in terms of legalization in the states. Decriminalization is different from legalization. This is a decriminalization bill. And the act would also expunge the criminal records of those with certain marijuana convictions and create funding and grants for communities that were disproportionately affected by the enforcement of marijuana criminalization, which just means that like the communities of color that were more impacted by this get first dibs, basically, is what that means. So that's historic. It is historic. Now, don't get it twisted. This was symbolic because they passed it knowing it was going to die in the Senate. It's not like they passed it and they thought there was any chance of it actually getting into law. It's going to be blocked in the Senate by Mitch McConnell, and then Donald Trump, even if it got to Trump's desk, I don't think he would necessarily sign it. He should, but I don't think he would. Again, McConnell's probably not even going to let it up for a vote. But it is historic in the sense that it passed the House of Representatives. It actually passed. It passed. So in a situation where the Democrats win the Senate, then you have the votes, then they could vote on it. I think it would pass. If the Democrats had 51, I think it would pass. Because, you might lose like Manchin maybe, but you gain Rand Paul, right? So it would pass, but then the question is, would Biden sign it? Biden recently has hinted more in the direction of softening on this issue, but he was an old school drug warrior. So I don't know if he'd sign it, to be honest with you. But now we've done something we've never done previously, and that matters. And listen, I think the reason why the House passed it and the reason why we've come this far is because in every single election now, we have direct ballot initiatives in some states where the question is, should we legalize marijuana? Some states are further behind and they vote on like medical marijuana, for example, but in a number of states, every single election now, there's votes on marijuana, and it wins almost every single time. I mean, there are conservative states that are voting to legalize recreational marijuana. So the consensus is now so overwhelming, and we're actually seeing some legislative gains on this front in a way that leads to real-world impacts. And it almost feels like the snowball effect, and there's no looking back. And the lobby for marijuana is gradually becoming more and more powerful than the lobbies against marijuana. Like you might have people in the DEA lobbying against marijuana, but if it becomes a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry, and also, by the way, you might say, hey, how dare they focus on this during COVID? This is an industry that has promise to create so many jobs and create so much wealth. If you really legalize it at the federal level and have a regulatory framework, are you kidding me? Overnight, you're creating this gigantic industry with so many jobs being created, and there are a lot of giant economic upsides, and that's exactly what we need at a time like right now. So, I get it. I would first and foremost do stimulus checks and do UBI for people. That's what they need right this second. But this is definitely something that does have a positive impact on the economy, which is desperately needed right now. So I wouldn't put this off forever. Of course I would, have a vote like this. So it's great that the House passed it. It's terrible that the Senate won't. Who knows what Biden would do, even in a situation where the Senate were to pass it as well. But we're getting somewhere, man. There's real movement on these issues now. First and foremost, credit goes to the activists and the states for being the laboratories of democracy and moving in a pro-weed direction. But, I mean, we're really starting to get somewhere now, and it's kind of exciting because I do feel like, you guys know this, right? That, like, on economic issues, oftentimes the fights are so much harder. Like, I'm talking about core economic issues. So whether it's union stuff or Medicare for all or a living wage, like, it's so hard to win on that stuff because corporations are so involved and invested on the wrong side of these issues. But you'll notice we always see more movement on social issues. And granted, the change comes in different ways. So, like, with gay rights, it came from the Supreme Court, for example. But, like, you always get the sense there's more give on social issues. And marijuana, even though it's also an economic issue, it's definitely a social issue and a personal freedom issue as well. And I feel like that's where we get most of our gains, and this is one where we're going to see more gains. So, listen, even though we perpetually get shafted on so many of the pure economic issues, this is one of those that's like, in the long run, I see no way in which we don't win. And the House passing a marijuana decriminalization bill, that's nothing to scoff at. Even though it's not going anywhere, people just got to keep the pressure on, keep having these votes in the respective states, and eventually we could get to a place where, like, it's legal in all the states. And then it's almost like the government's in the position, federal government is in a position where it's like, we really can't put that genie back in the bottle. So you kind of force their hand in a way. And that might be a little bit what's happening with this. We may have forced their hand in a way. So, good. Let's keep moving in this direction.